The year is 2017, and in a quiet city in Sweden, more precisely in the suburbs, in the bitter cold of a winter night, a miracle happened, or perhaps justice. Around 3 a.m., a little boy came out of his room, terrified, sweating, visibly frightened. He went straight to his father and told him, "I heard a scream coming from our neighbor's house, a desperate, frightened woman screaming for help." Of course, the father thought his son was inventing this because the next day was Saturday, and their neighbors, the old couple that lived downstairs, liked to sleep late. So the father assumed that the child had woken up precisely when they were making noise, and therefore had imagined the whole situation. But the scream was repeated the next night and the next and the next, always around the same time, always coming from the apartment of the old couple, and then the neighbors realized that Mrs. Anita, the older woman, hadn't been seen for several days, that the mail was piling up in her mailbox, that the lights were on in her apartment at odd hours, and that no one ever entered or exited. The neighbors decided to call the police. The officers searched and entered the apartment through the balcony because they couldn't get inside through the door. Mrs. Anita was nowhere to be found. Her personal belongings were still there. Nothing indicated that she had been kidnapped or taken to a hospital. All the food in the refrigerator was still fresh, meaning she hadn't gone anywhere willingly. But in the bedroom, the police found a note written in her handwriting, "If anything happens to me, it will be from the people closest to me." It was a mystery without a body, without a crime scene, without witnesses. Only a chilling phrase that could lead them to solve the case. Thus began a silent investigation. Nobody knew what had happened to Anita or if her disappearance was even a crime. The police learned that the only people close to her were her nephew Janice, who visited her often, and her caretaker Marcus, who came 3 times a week to do housework. Both men were questioned. Janice, tall and slender, was wearing a coat that matched the description of the one seen on surveillance cameras near his aunt's house. However, he provided a solid alibi for the day of the alleged crime. According to him, he had spent the entire day playing video games with friends, a fact confirmed by his companions. And although initially the focus of attention was on the young man, the police did not have enough evidence to arrest him. But there was one detail that no one paid attention to at first. When the little boy heard the desperate scream from his neighbor's apartment, he was playing with his toy car, and the toy had a voice recorder. And when the investigators reviewed the recordings, they discovered an unclear but terrifying voice saying, "It's all over." Although almost inaudible, the phrase was ominous. What did it mean? Who had said it? Who was this mysterious third person involved in the case? The police decided to delve deeper into the life of the missing woman. They checked her bank statements and found that 2 days after her disappearance, someone had withdrawn a large sum of money from her account. The signature on the withdrawal slip was not entirely clear, but it seemed to be Mrs. Anita's. Then they went to the bank to see if the signature could be analyzed. And what did they find out? It was not the handwriting of the missing woman, but rather the handwriting of her nephew. This meant that the young man had forged his aunt's signature to withdraw money from her bank account. His alibi suddenly didn't seem so trustworthy. However, the police needed more proof to arrest him, and when they searched his house, they found the exact same coat that was seen on the surveillance camera. But even that wasn't enough. The investigators had a hunch that he had something to do with his aunt's disappearance, but they needed irrefutable proof. And they got it thanks to the voice recording made by the little boy's smart toy. Once the recording was enhanced, the phrase became clearer. "It's all over." Even though the boy had recorded it on a toy and not a professional device, the sound quality could be improved, and the voice belonged to Anita's nephew. But how could they prove it? The police were able to locate Janice again and confront him with the digital evidence. At first, he tried to deny everything, claiming that the voice in the recording didn't belong to him. But then they told him that they had also managed to analyze the images from the surveillance cameras and that they had a clear picture of him entering his aunt's house on the day of her disappearance. At that moment, the man broke down and confessed everything. He admitted that he had been having financial problems for a long time and that he had even mortgaged his apartment. In addition, he revealed that he had a drug addiction that he couldn't quit. For all these reasons, he had decided to steal from his aunt. Janice explained that he had entered his aunt's house after she had been drugged and persuaded her to sign a document giving him control of her assets. However, when Anita realized what had happened, she tried to stop him, but Janice had already counted on this. He had prepared sedative tea and gave it to her. I told her that I wanted the best for her and that I just wanted to help her, that I would take care of everything, he said. Janice claimed that she fell asleep right in front of him, and he took advantage of the situation to lock her up in her bedroom. He promised to return in a few days to unlock her and give her back her freedom. But when he did return, Anita refused to open the door and screamed for help. I don't know how long she stayed in that room. I was only there for a few hours, but I'm sure she was locked up for longer, the man said. However, the confession didn't explain why he had whispered, "It's all over," into the microphone of the little boy's toy. The police believe that the man simply had the habit of talking out loud even when he thought no one was listening. Therefore, the last thing he said before leaving the house was, "It's all over." While Janice expected to be arrested, the police continued searching the house. They found the drugs he kept hidden, and some checks made out to him from his aunt. The police also went to the neighbor's house to question them. They remembered hearing screams but never imagined that it was a desperate cry for help. "We are sorry for not paying attention. We thought it was just a quarrel between husband and wife," said one of the neighbors. Finally, after 6 days of intense work, the police located the missing woman. They rescued her from her bedroom, where she had been locked up, very exhausted but alive. When they asked her about the message, the one she left behind, she replied, "I felt something was wrong, and I was ready." She had been trapped and had no choice but to wait. She drank the sleeping draught without arguing because she knew her nephew would not hurt her, even though he had betrayed her. The strange thing is that Anita had already suffered a similar experience in the past, but with another person. Several years before, a friend of hers stole money from her and even locked her up in her own home. Perhaps that's why she didn't react violently when her nephew locked her up. She knew what it felt like to be trapped. This case caused quite a stir in the Swedish media and is considered one of the strangest in recent times. A case where a child's toy played a crucial role in solving a mystery. Janice was charged with burglary and aggravated theft. During the trial, he insisted that his aunt had signed the papers voluntarily, but that turned out to be false. At first, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but later, after appealing, he was sentenced to 3 years and 8 months in prison. As for Mrs. Anita, she managed to overcome the difficult ordeal. Her nephew's betrayal deeply affected her, but she received emotional support from her neighbors, whom she had not been able to see during those terrible days. Today, she prefers not to talk about what happened, but she is grateful to the little boy who alerted her neighbors and helped her to receive help in time. This case serves as a reminder for all of us that sometimes seemingly insignificant details can make a big difference. The scream of a child, the whisper of a man, or the footprint of a criminal can be the key elements that help solve complex mysteries. These are reminders that justice, although sometimes slow, usually prevails in the end. It's a nod to the victims that their voices, although silenced, can echo in the corridors of memory until they're heard. Thanks to the testimonies of the neighbors and the technology of the time, the truth of the facts came to light and the culprit faced the consequences of his actions. Let this story be a lesson to us all that no detail is insignificant and every voice deserves to be heard. Until next time, remember that behind every mystery lies a truth waiting to be discovered. Wait for the following issues and their puzzles. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell button to receive all that is new.